Hello, I'm Andrew Barr. I'm a Senior Educational Consultant with Fielding Nair International, a renowned educational architectural firm, and I've been a principal of 3 schools prior to that.
Hi, my name's Sirota, and I work for Fielding Nair International, designing schools all over the world.
Hello, I'm Martin Scott. I'm the new primary principal at YCIS Hong Kong primary school, and I've got 20 years of leadership experience as principal of schools around the world.
Dr. Chan sought out our firm because we seek to reinvent teaching and learning through architecture, and she really wanted us to implement that on all of her schools.
And I worked firstly with Fielding Nair about 13 years ago, and as a school when I was a principal, and the collaboration in that process was so successful in developing both learning developments and architectural developments side by side.
In the traditional model, the spaces are really only designed for one thing. But in this innovative model that we're implementing here, the learning community model, there's spaces that are for a multitude of things. Smaller rooms, larger rooms, spaces that are connected to one another, and each of those provides the teachers and the students an opportunity to utilize the space different and to learn in a different way. And the research shows when students are learning in a different way, they're learning better, just like we're seeing happening here. The kids are on the beanbags reading by themselves. The kids are at these tables working in a small group, and then the teacher's at the front of the room talking to some of the kids, not all the kids. At other times, they're all coming together as a whole. So they open up the walls and they meet together as 2 or 3 classes rather than 2 or 3 classes separated.
And the real reason why that's so essential is that in this modern day and age, we know from research that young people need to develop their skills in creativity and problem solving. They need to be curious, and we need to encourage that for them to be curious, for them to be good decision makers and good, wise decision makers around a range of things, about looking after their environment, about looking after their world, about caring for each other. So it's understood, it's the space being complementary to those key skills.
We've aimed to recruit teachers who are very open-minded, teachers who have perhaps experienced this style of teaching in their own home countries or in previous schools, and even those that have been in YCIS for some time and have been teaching in a more traditional manner have really opened up to this approach and have taken the flexibility and the freedoms that it gives them to be more creative with how they deliver the learning experiences for the children. And some, even though we've only been operating a few weeks, the things that are happening in these new areas are phenomenal, and children are really excited, and there's a massive buzz to their learning.
Importance of, as was said by Martin, the alignment of staff to the vision of this school is so important in recruiting staff and then in the development of those staff. That's essential to it, and I think they must have a love of seeing young people and their development in their learning, and that's a wonderful starting place for that recruitment.
Yeah,
that's right.
Teachers that can do that, they really take the space and they turn it into something wonderful.
Yeah.
They see it as an opportunity to further their practices along rather than something to restrict them.
Yeah.
And in this space, even we found we're a week in and they're already doing that very, very well.
Yes.
I haven't seen it done this well in several schools that are twice as big as this. So you guys really are taking advantage of everything available here.
I think what's really become very clear is that because of different children's individual learning styles, we've seen children, they're lying on the carpet to do a piece of work, they're collaborating in a small group, they're sitting on the bean bags, they're enjoying their learning, and they're actually learning. They're working really hard. Actually, they're working harder than we've seen them work in the traditional classrooms.
And that's what makes it hard for parents sometimes, because it's different from their experience. And we've all been to school.
Yes.
And we've all been there from different generations. But in terms of, and for a principal to go around and see what is good learning happening, has to look at the task that the students are doing. That's essential. And that task, if it's deeper learning, really getting into deeper questioning and real stuff, then that is what engages students.
I think what's been really exciting is when you sit and you talk with a student, and they've all been given the same project, the same task to apply their learning to, but each one has chosen a different means of actually putting that into practice. They may have gone to do individual research, they may have gone to the art area to produce an art project based around their learning. They may have been doing some collaborative work or some science-based work. It's just been really exciting how the children have grown and really started that collaborative journey in their learning. If you look at education for the early years, the youngest children, it's learning through play, it's learning through those tactile experiences and the joy and wonder that children have. And as they move up through school, we've tended to close that down. In actual fact, children learn best through those approaches.
That's right.
And we've stifled that.
Yeah.
And now children in these collaborative learning spaces can experience that throughout their whole primary education.
And that's not to diminish the importance of those very rich disciplines of mathematics and science and whatever. Those are very rich, but it's about getting deeper in the learning.
Absolutely. We want to design spaces for movement and for studies. So spaces that support project-based learning, as well as spaces that support a single subject. So at a younger level, we'll maybe include more spaces that are for movement, because the kids are always moving around. At the upper levels, we might include fewer spaces for movement, but they still need to be there.